Hello and welcome to PCTV on the Road. I'm your host for today, Shawn Serre, and I'm with Pittsfield Community Television. And today we're on the road at the Berkshire Athenaeum, and we're in the Berkshire Authors Room. And the topic of today's program is going to be 3D printing. Now, if you're not familiar with 3D printing, stick around for the next 27 minutes or so, and I think you'll find this fascinating. We have two guests with us today, and they're Sara Belleau and Andrea Puglisi, and they're staff members of the Berkshire Athenaeum. So welcome to both of you, and thanks for being here today.
Thank you for having us. Thank you. Thanks.
Great. So I must say that as we were sort of working up to getting this show going today, there was quite a bit of fascination in the room. We have a lot of techies here at PCTV, as you might imagine. So immediately we're completely drawn to this type of technology. But we want to sort of get into how the Berkshire Athenaeum got started in the world of 3D printing. So maybe give us a little history, either one of you, about how this idea got started here, and then we'll get into what 3D printing actually is. So Andrea?
Okay. We purchased the 3D printers. A lot of libraries have them in their libraries as a way to create designs, prototypes, practice any math skills that you're learning in school. And we were really fortunate that the trustees of the Athenaeum purchased them for us.
Great. And how long has the program been going on here at the Athenaeum? Has it been a couple years now since you got your first printer?
Yeah, we started researching them a couple years ago, a year and a half ago, and then purchased them, and then we had staff trained on them, and then about a year ago we've started offering them to the public.
Okay, great. Now, for people at home, when they think about a printer, most people understand what a printer is now. They hook it up to their computer and they've got a document, a Word document or a picture or something that they might be printing. It might be in black and white, it might be in color, it might be on some special paper. And then we start thinking about this idea of 3D printing, right? So tell us what a 3D printer is and how it's different than what people might think of as a standard printer.
Well, your standard printer prints in two-dimensional, so it prints flat on a sheet of paper.
Right.
3D printers, you create a design using computers, and then it prints it, but instead of being flat, it ends up building on top of itself layers, and it comes out as an actual model or prototype.
As a physical object, right?
Yeah,
So,
kind of like this here.
okay. And so the material that it's printing with is something called filament, is that right?
Yep.
And so that's kind of a fancy word for
Ink.
ink, or I guess most people would consider it plastic, right? But is it plastic?
Filament is toner. We're using PLA.
PLA?
Yep.
And what does that stand for, do you know? Not to put you on the spot.
Yeah, something.
Polylactic acid.
Okay, great.
Polylactic
Okay.
acid.
It's
Yeah.
not cornstarch, or no, it's cornstarch. It's a form of cornstarch, so
Oh,
it's
okay.
biodegradable.
Oh, okay, great. See, I did not know that.
So if you ate it, you'd survive, but we don't recommend you do that.
And all of the printers here can use that. Are there other types of materials that 3D printers use to fashion some of these objects? Or is that like the only type of thing they use?
No, there's actually all sorts of materials that they're starting to develop. These only use PLA and types that are similar to it, but there is material that's flexible. There's 3D printers out there that print in metals and gold and all sorts of stuff. So this is just kind of the start of what's the possibilities out there.
Wow. See, now I was wondering that myself today as I was thinking about it. Is metal one of those things? Because you can imagine, sort of your imagination goes wild when you start to think about what you can print. And we're going to have a look at some of that. And you may hear some noise in the background as we're recording the show right now, and that's because Sara and Andrea have brought 3 different machines, some 3D printers here, and they're currently hard at work creating some of the designs. And these particular designs that we're going to be looking at are things that can be created in a very short period of time. So what about a little bit more complex designs? How long would that take somebody to print if, let's just say, we'll just hold this item up here. Now tell me what this is, first of all, and I'll hold it so one of our cameras can get a shot of it.
That is, we call it a stopwatch. It's a little bigger than your average stopwatch, but that's because of all the gears that were printed and all the mechanics that went into it. And we think that printing took about 48, 50 hours, somewhere in there.
So a couple of days
Yeah.
from start to finish. And
Yep.
that was after a design was made
Right.
to make this possible. So,
And one thing to note about that is while maybe 48 hours of time went into it, because we assembled it, the machines weren't necessarily running for a full straight 48 hours.
Okay.
So a design can print for longer if you know how to assemble or put together parts.
and so you mentioned assembly. So this is multiple different parts.
Yes.
So as you can see, some of the parts are white in color, some are red, some are blue. And you kind of get an idea of all the different stuff. So each one has its own design then, and each part is probably a master design, I'm guessing, that it works with, and then each part is created separately. Is that generally right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we actually took this off the internet and downloaded it because there are a lot of very clever people out there who have got some great designs, and they share it with the rest of us who are able to take use of them and print them ourselves.
Okay. Yeah. And I'm just going to hold this one up because we talked about this before we went on air, and I'll try and hold it as steady as I can. This is a bust of the library director, Alex Raskowski, which is great. I don't see the bow tie though.
He wasn't wearing it
Wasn't
that
wearing
day. Also, he doesn't have any glasses on,
Oh,
which is
that's
part
right.
of his signature look.
But it is a great likeness of him. Now, what's interesting about this is you had pointed out that it's fairly hollow, that I tap on it a little bit, and so you don't need to make a solid piece, right? That the printer can understand from the designs that it's created by where to put the material and how to make it just so that it either fills it up and makes it solid or keeps it hollow. Is that right? I think you
Yes.
called it density.
Yep. And along that idea, sorry, there's a ton of
That's okay.
hair.
That's
But if you look,
yeah.
in this case, we're looking in someone's legs.
Uh-huh.
The less dense an object is, the web shape is larger.
Mm-hmm.
The more full or dense an object is, you'll have more webs within it.
Okay.
So that's how you can
Huh.
make a hollow object and also make something go faster or slower or more stable.
And I would imagine use less filament or more filament depending on how
Right.
dense it is, right? Great. Now, let's talk a little bit about the designs, because obviously someone can't just take an image from their mind and say, I want the 3D printer to create it, right? So there must be something in between, and maybe Sarah, you could talk about that.
Yeah, we found in particular one website called tinkercad.com.
And that's tinkercad, C-A-D,
Yes.
.com.
.com. Yeah, and it has some great tutorials, great software that helps create just geometric shapes that you can add together to create a lot of the designs. It has some great tutorials if you're just starting out as to the basics, walks you through the software.
And how hard is it for someone who maybe has some moderate computer skills to jump on there and say, hey, I want to design something and put something together, and then what would be the next step if they were a patron of the library and they wanted to come in here and say, hey, I've got this great design, but I need somewhere to print it. Can I do that here? What would be the next step to do that here?
We have some workshops that reference authors that people can come in with their designs, or they can come in and talk to the reference librarians about the design process
Okay.
and where to start. It is really interesting to try to design something that's three-dimensional on a computer screen that is two-dimensional. One of the most difficult things to understand is your perspective and looking at it from all angles, because it's very easy to have something that looks fine from one direction, but you turn and you realize that one object's hanging off in space, you know. So it kind of takes a little bit to get used to that, but once you do it, it really comes together and it's pretty easy.
Yeah, so it sounds like a really different way of thinking if you're used to using a computer and maybe used to sort of the standard things that you do, and then all of a sudden now you're really thinking in 3 dimensions instead of 2 and putting that all together. But it's still manageable for somebody who wants to jump in. And you said you have workshops that Is that something that you hold on a regular basis that that people can get involved with?
Yes, we do in the reference department. What you want, so on our website, which is pittsfieldlibrary.org, if you went there and clicked on a picture of our Ultimaker or of an Ultimaker, that would take you to our program. We have a self-guided program which outlines software that you can download and when we're having classes, and then the skills that will help you develop so that way you're able to access or use the machines independently of staff. So it's been really quite special. We've had a few different patrons who are moving along that track, and it's been really inspiring.
That sounds like a great opportunity for people, and I understand it's not just adults that can take advantage of this, right?
Yep.
So talk about the children's library side of it.
Yeah, we've done a lot with kids, and it's just amazing watching them use this software and just pick it up like nothing, and they really enjoy it. We've had a couple kids come in with school projects, and they've designed things or had reports on 3D printers, so they've just called us up and we've made arrangements for them. But we're also, during school vacation, April 18th, we'll be offering Tech Tuesday, and we're hoping to keep it more regular every month to have a Tech Tuesday for the kids and the teens to come in and try them out and use them.
And this program, PCTV on the Road today at the Berkshire Athenaeum, will most likely also be shown up until the summer and maybe into the summer. So are there plans to do some of those things for kids during the summer as well?
Yep, we have a summer reading program that we do every year during the summer, and this year's theme is Build a Better World. So we figure a lot of that will tie in, the theme will tie in to these 3D printers. We have an Explorer Club each week for the kids to sign up, and we'll be using these and other things as well.
Excellent. Andrea, talk about the philosophy that the library has around this, because again, this, you think of the library as books and reading materials and periodicals, and these days also internet access and you know, all kinds of abilities of learning. What was it that drew the library and the trustees to want to provide this for the public?
Literacy is one underlying part of all of that. Library has been a warehouse for that kind of learning.
This is sort of outside the box in a way,
definitely.
right? Because you wouldn't automatically think, oh, I'm going to go to the library to learn about 3D printing, and yet...
Well, people come here to create. They'll come here to write books. They come here to do digital art, and 3D printings allow for people to express themselves or create prototypes that they're able to use as a way to... I have one patron who's making a prototype because his employer wants that for a project. So it's a way of perhaps creating something.
That's great.
To sell or to make money on.
Excellent. Well, I think we've done a lot of talking. I think that we should take a peek at what these machines are doing, and maybe you can go over some of the prototypes that are makeable with some of these items. Okay, so let's stand up and take a walk over, and I'll walk back here. And so if we've got our cameras all in place, maybe you could describe, we have two different machines here, but they're basically doing the same thing, is that right?
Yes. They're both laying down filament. So what you do is, with computers, you create your design.
And I'll just hold up a reel of this so people can see what the filament looks like. It's kind of this stringy, strandy stuff that's on a reel, right?
Yep.
And that gets fed into the machine and up through a tube where this little piece here seems to be melting it and making the part. Is that, am I being accurate about that?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
So you take that design you make, or put it on a card, so you put it into the machine, so that way it knows it's there. Then, as you've said, the filament gets fed through the Bowden tube, and what's happening is, if you're able to zoom in really close, coming out of the nozzle, which is the gold part on the head, is the melted material. This part here is called the build plate, and what it's doing is it's literally laying down filament and building it up into an object. In this case, we're building a heart.
So it's basically printing a flat layer of material
On top of itself.
on top of another,
and
on top of another, and it sort of builds it up that way, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And Sarah, what's this one doing over here?
This one's making a little #1 reader medal.
Okay.
We use this as a prototype for our last year's summer reading theme, and it's the same basic principle. It's just putting down layer by layer. There is kind of a little bit of holes in there to create, like we talked about, the density, the lack of density, so that it will print faster as well as not take up so much filament.
Filament, okay, sure. And a design for that medal that you're making, did you design that, or is that something that you adapted from the internet? How did you get to that?
I think I did. I think I took a design that somebody else had made, and then I took the words off of it and put what I wanted it to say on there. So it's a wonderful ability to customize anything that you want.
And Andrea, I think you had mentioned that the software that is the design portion of this was, what was the name of it?
Tinkercad.
Tinkercad, and that was an open source software, which means that it's basically free for people to use, right?
Yes, that's true. Tinkercad is a website. It's web-based software. The next step from Tinkercad is something called 123D Design, which is made by Autodesk, which is the same company that makes Tinkercad. At that point, you're able to download it. There can be different versions of it on the internet, because with open source software, there's that ability for people to change the way it works and make and share it. So,
great. And I just wanted to point out a couple of these items that are down here. So this is created at the Berkshire Athenaeum, and on the other side it says Ethan, right? So this Ethan created this item, or someone like Ethan, or liked Ethan. So how was that? Was that done the same way that we've been describing?
Yeah, with Tinkercad.
Okay.
Yeah, just with letters.
Great.
Very simple.
And maybe, I can't see the ones that are up in front here, but maybe you could talk about those. Here's, I don't know what this is.
so that was me.
Okay.
I was trying to, so Sara and I, we have not been formally educated on how 3D printers work, or even how to use CAD, which is computer aided design, which is what Tinkercad is. So I was trying to explore features within 123D Design to get a better sense of how to use it. So I don't really know what this is. It's a waffle honeycomb that I made. I like to create false or faux stained glass, and that's an idea I had as to how it would look. So,
and again, I don't know if
cool.
it's easy to tell from the camera angle, but there are multiple depths going on inside this, so it's almost like a frame, but there are some things that are further up from the frame and certain things that are further back.
Yes.
So that's all, you can do that with the design.
Yep.
Which is very cool. Obviously, different color filament, pink versus green versus, what's this item here?
Yeah, this is a signature somebody had written, and then we 3D printed it. And this, we were trying to play with the colors of the filament.
So at the very top is dark blue. So you were able to, stop the machine?
And switch it out, yeah. Because at the moment they generally only print one color, but we were playing with the idea of more colors. But the problem is it creates a little bit of a weakness there. So if it was anything that needed any strength, it wasn't something that we encourage people to do, but it is kind of fun to switch up the colors when it's something that doesn't require strength.
Great.
Yep.
And so the designs you've started here are two examples of ones that will pretty much be done by the time that our program is over, which is only in a few minutes. And as you had mentioned, there are certain ones that could take days to do. What is the process for someone who's, say, maybe they're making a spare part for something, something that might even be commercially available? How far in the future is it until people are starting to do that for many, many more things? Because really, this technology is still pretty much in its infancy, right?
Yeah, it's hard to say, but we think it's pretty soon because, like I said, we have the 3D scanner that we had done some of the busts with. So if you have an object that you want to, instead of designing it yourself, you can 3D scan it, and then you would have the object and could print it from there, even bypassing the software that we were talking about, Tinkercad and those types of things.
Actually, Sara, if you could reach over and grab the toy with the balls in it, because the blue and the green item there.
Our marble
Because I
maze.
think that's a great one to be able to show on camera. I don't know if, again, we can get a great shot of this or not, but, and this looks like a fairly complicated one to have run, so.
Yeah, this one actually did take a couple days. We had to stop the print halfway through and then start it up the next day. Took about 18 hours. but it actually has a few marbles in there, and they go along the track. And somebody designed it so that it will go up the cylinder in the back here, and then just will continue.
That's a great little design.
Yeah.
I assume that the little balls were also printed?
No, they
Or were
weren't.
those-
No, we had to find
You had to
those
find
because we
those,
did
okay.
try to 3D print them,
Yeah.
but they were too light.
Oh,
So they wouldn't go down the track. So
Okay.
we did have to find a heavier ball to go down the track. But
and I would imagine too, looking at your honeycomb, that you can get different textures as well, right? And is there any finishing involved? Like once something is printed, do you need to go back through and kind of smooth out the edges and things like that?
We have one patron, Bill McFarlane, who has been making parts, and he's been sanding them down and painting them for his Cub Scouts. He's been printing tools, so
Great.
you can do that.
And how many patrons do you think are taking advantage of this now? Is it a growing thing, or a lot more people wanting to do it? I'm sure many people will, as soon as they see our program, will be flocking to the Berkshire Athenaeum to come and do this. So, but is it something that you're seeing a big growth in?
Yeah, it's definitely growing,
Yeah.
and we want it to grow, and we want people to get involved with it. One thing to remember is that while we offer guidance on designing, there's still a lot of work you need to do on your own in order to really learn or master it. So that is something that it's a two-person or two-entity commitment, and it's ongoing.
And you know, we're standing here and we're still having a normal sort of level sound conversation while they're working. They do make a little bit of noise, right? Has that been an issue at the library at all?
no, it hasn't for the most part. Everybody loves to watch them, and they're mesmerizing. It's fun to have people stop at the desk and watch and ask, "What is that?" You know, and then they want to know, "How can I get involved?
Right.
What can I do?" So.
I guess the other thing I just realized that there isn't a computer per se connected to one of these things to feed any of the information to the design, right? So is it coming off of a USB stick or something like that? So all the rest of the, it looks like something might be done here.
Finished.
Just to finish that thought, so the all the information, the data that the machine needs, it's all built in, and it'll take that design and print from there.
Yep. Yeah, it just has an SD card for the memory for the files that you put on it, that you transfer. Yep.
That's great. So, okay, so it looks like Orion here is done. And so now I assume that's still warm? Or,
Anyone who cooks,
yeah? I don't want
probably have
any
been burnt.
burns here.
Like this is hot. It's
Yeah.
warm, but for me, I've touched a hotter or oven or stove or whatever.
But the process would be you'd leave it to cool for a little bit?
Well, it's easier. Think about food.
Okay.
Sometimes it's easier when it's a little warm to scrape something off.
And so let's see what so you've just pulled a couple of the little strands of things off, right? And there it
I did
is.
a
So while
heart.
we've been on the air, we've been able to print this object. This is fantastic. And then, now is this one faster than this one? Is that just how they work, or did we just get that one started first?
Yeah, or it might have just been a smaller print than we realized. This one's just got, and it actually, it's nice, it tells us exactly how long it is left, and so it has a few more minutes.
Right, and then the filament that we used on this was white. The filament on this one is silver or gray.
Yep. Yep.
So they'll come out looking a little different. Are they the different designs, or are they the same design?
No, they're different designs.
designs.
Yeah,
Okay.
slightly different.
Okay. Well, that's great. Let's let this one finish, and we'll sit back down here, and we can actually just go over a couple of the other items. And I think you should probably mention that website again, and the Athenaeum's phone number, because I know when people see this, they're going to immediately want to jump all over this and get involved. So tell us what that is again.
So our phone number is 413-499-9480. You'll want to click for Children's Library if you want your child or your teen to get involved. You want for adults to select for the reference department. Our website, which is pittsfieldlibrary.org, if you go to our homepage, you'll see a picture of a 3D printer. If you click on that link, that'll take you to what we're calling our self-guided program, which outlines how to use the equipment somewhat openly. So, and I'll have the links to all sorts of softwares or ideas as to what you can do to get started.
Great. Let's just go through while we have a couple minutes left. Tell us what that is.
So we've been talking a lot about Tinkercad. I feel like we're an advertisement. One of the tutorials is you can make a chain. So when Sara and I were first learning how to design, I made this design. One tip is that in Tinkercad, you're designing by default in millimeters. So when we first printed it, it didn't work. But when we scaled it up and printed it into sized it to something about inches, we were able to actually have an object.
Sara, show us the green building there and tell us what that is.
This is my design. When we were playing and learning the software, I decided to try and make a replica of the library.
Great.
And so it took a little while. This building has a lot of windows.
And just rotate that around for us also so we can see the
way.
front detail. Yeah.
And so it was just learning the software, and it was a lot of fun to design it and try to figure out exactly all the little intricacies.
And Andrea, tell us that one you said took a few hours to do it. It feels pretty durable though, and it's all one piece.
Probably about 3.5 or 4 hours, if my memory is right.
Yeah.
You can go on a website called Thingiverse, which is spelled THINGIVERSE.com, where people of all sorts of backgrounds upload models. We downloaded this and printed it. So we didn't design it originally, but we were able to print it.
Great. And this is a little Friends of the Athenaeum plaque, which is pretty detailed, I must say. Pretty solid.
And this was actually, is this lithophane? This is something else we were working with.
Okay.
We made 3D selfies with the teens. They took a picture of themselves, and then we had small little icons that they 3D printed the pictures. And so this was kind of an example of that.
Excellent. Well, believe it or not, this has flown by and we're almost out of time. So I'd like to thank you both for being here today on PCTV On the Road. And again, with me we have Sara Belleau and Andrea Puglisi. They're both staff members of the Berkshire Athenaeum, and they're heavily involved with the 3D printing program that they have here. And you know, it really is fascinating, folks. I hope that you come to the Athenaeum, check it out, get involved. And these folks are going to lead you through it, and it's going to be fantastic. So thanks again for being here. Thank you both.
Thank you.
And folks, join us next time for PCTV On the Road. I'm Shawn Serre. Thanks again for being here.